Welcome to another episode of Disability and Assistive Technology Today. Join Jeremy Murray, Christy Edwards, and I while we discuss disability, assistive technology, apps, news, and reviews, picked fresh from the Google Plus community. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 11th episode, or I should say installment, of Disability and Assistive Technology Today. This week, it's just Jeremy and I talking about the top 5 stories, 6 stories, I should say, used to be 5, 6 stories from our DATT community on Google Plus. And we would also encourage anyone watching live to go to our DATT.tv website and check out the IRC chat window. If you're experienced in these things, you'll be able to figure it out by going to the window on our DATT.tv page. So
basically, you just type in a nickname and hit connect, and you're good to go.
And we prefer that you use your real first name, just so that we haven't got a DATT.tv user 97643. That would be great.
Yeah.
And that would be fantastic. So Jeremy's full of salt and pepper today, so we should have a fairly good show for you.
Should, yeah.
Christy was unable to come today because she had some other obligations, and she'll hopefully be back with us here in our next show in the next 2 weeks. So, top stories. Jeremy, you're up first.
I'm taking the first story.
Yeah.
So this first story is entitled "Paralyzed Artist Continues to Create." It cut off, so it's create with
help of an EEG.
With EEG, with help of EEG, yes. So basically, the story is about this graffiti artist who is quite famous in the LA area for being really good and very versatile, and he was diagnosed with ALS.
Yeah.
In 2003. And so this group of people decided to create this thing so he could continue to create his graffiti and be the person that he wants to be and show expression and all that stuff. So they designed this product called the Eye Writer, which used eye tracking to allow him to still create graffiti on like a computer. But in 2013 or 2014, his disease, his ALS, had progressed to the point where he couldn't do the functions that he needed to be able to do in order to operate the eye tracking thing that they created for him. So this bigger group of people from all over the world, because it's open source, have started working on this project called the Brain Writer, and what it is going to do is use a little bit of eye tracking and helping to tap into like his thoughts, his brainwaves, his thoughts, so he can like control with what he's thinking rather than with his eyes. And it's quite amazing, actually, because it's all open source, and there's a wide variety of people from like Ontario to London, England, working on this project for this one guy, because he's so, everyone wants to see him get his story out there and continue with his passion, and of course live a life even though he's being kind of trapped in his own body with ALS.
I think this is awesome. I really do. Anytime that we can put technology in the hands of people with disabilities, especially debilitating ones like Lou Gehrig's disease, I think we're obligated to do it, and I think that the open source communities out there are a perfect place for this type of project. And, maker spaces are all over the world, even right here in Fredericton. So projects like this, when you get a bunch of people together that know what they're doing, people who are good with materials and people who are good with electronics and people who understand science, good things can happen when they work together, and this is a great example of it.
I completely agree, and us on this show have always been very we've always praised kind of the open source community because I believe me and you both feel that the open source community is kind of where innovation is going to come from. I mean, you're going to get these mass companies that are going to create these products, but then you're going to get these open source community members are going to be like, well, this is great, but it could be better. And then they're going to take that product and then they're going to design one that is open source and cheaper that may work better on an individual case. And that's kind of where this thing's coming from. Because for the past 20 years, EEG really hasn't changed. It's always been like the brain cap, gel, or computer with a $500 brain, like a head cap on. This product that they are working on costs, I think they said $40, and it's all coding after that. So it's all like individual coding and trying to get everything working the way, yeah, it's all time, and it's not for profit, so they're not charging for, like, they're not increasing the cost because of labor. They just want to do this to help whoever it's going to help.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to see, and I hope they finish it in time to benefit this individual. But I also hope that it benefits other individuals as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. The open source communities are where it's at, especially for assistive technology, because there's a component of assistive technology that's requires some altruism and empathy. And not to say that companies that produce assistive technology don't have those things, but their primary goal is for profit.
Yeah.
And the open source community has a tendency to be more altruistic and less focused on the profit, more on the function.
More on fixing things.
Yeah.
Sort of like, now forgive me, I just got done watching the Aaron Swartz documentary. He was always, like, one of the things they mention is, like, he wrote a blog about, I don't want to hold grudges against people. I just want to fix things. Like, just let me fix things. So I think that's kind of the open source way of the mindset of people is, this is wrong, let's fix it. Let's not charge for it, let's fix it.
Well, I think Aaron Swartz, I mean, we all know him from Reddit primarily, but he was also involved quite heavily in the distribution of all of the documents that were sent all over. And I grew up with following his story and have been a Redditor for quite a while. And it blows me away that folks who believe in innovation are often stifled by corporations that are in it for the money and not to solve the problem. And unfortunately for Aaron, he was naive in that he believed that what they were telling him was true, and that all of his work would be for the good. And I think in the end, before he made his recent bones, he believed them. So,
but I guess what I was getting at there was, at least that situation with Aaron, albeit a very sad one and should never have happened the way it happened.
That's right.
At least it hasn't stifled the creativity of others to limit open source communities. That idea of, oh, we just want to fix things is still there, and I'm glad for it, because that idea is going to save so many people in the future.
That's why everyone should go try and find and visit their local makerspace.
Yes, I'm yet to do that. I probably should soon.
Yeah, they have a Facebook page here for our local chapter.
Yeah.
All right.
Check it out. Anyway,
all right.
Off to the next story.
Yeah.
This is kind of a bit different than the last story.
By the way, before you continue, I have to apologize to everyone for the lag. Our network is terrible today, so if there's any stuttering in the frames, we apologize in advance.
Yes, it's
sorry to interrupt.
Under control. So, like I was saying, this story is quite different than the last story, where it's really not a story at all. It's more a video, which we will have a link to when we post the show notes with the edited version of this episode. And so what this is a video of this sort of one-wheeled bicycle thing that you can attach to your manual chair. And there are a couple different models. One's electric, and one is like with handlebars, and one is lever driven. And I forget the other model, but lever driven and handlebar models. And so they attach to your manual chair, basically turn your manual chair into an electric vehicle. So you can get to places efficient and faster, really, for a cheaper cost. I'm sure, as some of our viewers know, electric wheelchairs are not cheap, or power chairs are not cheap. They can range anywhere from $12,000 to $50,000 without even blinking an eye. So this is kind of a cheaper alternative. I should mention the name of the product is Firefly, and the story was shared by Tom Snyder. One quick note about this, I've also seen other models, not from the same company, but from other companies that are not powered. They're like little hand bikes, so you attach it to your manual chair and it becomes a hand bike if it's easier for you to use like a hand bike method. And I'm sure there are cases out there. I just thought it was kind of an interesting invention, and I'd seen the video around a little bit from friends of mine who are also in chairs, and it seems to kind of have a warm reception, so I figured, why not talk about it on the show? What are your thoughts, Andrew?
Well, I think that it's a pretty cool piece of technology. The ability to convert one technology to another is fantastic. The only concern that I had, or a thing that I saw with it, is that if you're in a manual chair, the attachment that goes on the front is large. So I know you can move it around and put it on by yourself most easily, but the question that I have is, when you're done with it and you're in the middle of something, what do you do with it? It's not like an attachment that you can sort of sling over your back or you know.
What do you mean by when you're done with it?
Well, say for instance I go into the mall and I'm running around in the mall,
and you don't want to use it.
I've been there for 3 hours and the battery dies. It's going to just be in the way.
Well,
so,
see, I don't think it's meant to be used like all of the time. Like, it's not meant to be used 24/7. What I think it's meant for is from traveling from point A to point B, and then once you get to point B, you would treat it like, say, a bicycle. So you would put like a lock on it outside of the building you're going to, and then you push your chair manually. But I'm sure that there are people that use it in a more extensive manner, and I'm sure there are ways to probably get a better battery for it. I've never used one. I don't know how long the battery lasts. I know if they're anything like power chairs, they last quite a while. Like, I drive everywhere, as you know, my battery lasts all day, and I do a lot of driving.
I know what you're trying to say.
So I can't see. Nice devil horns, by the way. I can't see. I really can't see it dying being an issue, but I really don't know because I haven't tried it. I would have to see it in practice, in use, before I could really definitively say, okay, you're good to use it for, all day use, all the time travel. But all the video shows is like outdoor travel, so it seems like it's going to be used for like point A to point B travel, and not point A to point B, inside point B, and then back to point A. You know what I mean? It's just meant to be used as a faster way of transport, which is still, you know, a great invention, because a lot of people who are confined to a wheelchair. I shouldn't say this because I shouldn't really label people. A major concern is energy consumption. So a lot of times you try to conserve your energy as much as you can. And this is a way to do that, because you can use this to get you from, say, my room using any in the mall.
Bad lag.
When you get home. So you wouldn't have to worry about people having to push you around everywhere either, because you could use that to get place to place and still have energy to kind of live your life. I think is what it was going for. But I could be completely wrong.
No, I think you're right. And it's a new technology, so I imagine the company will only bring better product to the market as time goes on.
Yes, and I believe the next story is yours, Andrew. So this ought to be a good test.
Well, yeah, really. Looks like a Phnom Penh teen made a turn your breath into words program, and he did this through the Google Science Fair in his area. And this story was brought to us by our regular viewer, Mr. Tom Snyder. So I was really intrigued by this story, because we've been talking about open source and low-cost alternatives, and of all of the low-cost alternatives, this one really takes the cake, because what this technology is doing is taking breath, it senses breath. For those who are watching the video, there's a link in the show notes that you can go to see it, but it basically is an apparatus that goes around and comes in the front of his mouth, and it wraps up around his ears, so that it's kind of like a microphone. And what it does is it takes his breath, and of course he had to learn Morse code, which is pretty easy to do, and he would use Morse code to puff out words, and then the software itself that he developed would take that Morse code and then verbalize it. So most augmentative communication software and hardware is really expensive. A piece of hardware can cost up to $5,000 or $6,000 and higher. This kid put this whole project together for $80.
I don't know if you were done, Andrew, but my main concern with this project is it completely 100% relies on individuals having two distinct exhales. And in certain situations, individuals may have difficulty having two distinct exhales. I mean, they can still exhale, they can still breathe, but it may not be distinct enough for the product to pick it up and distinguish the difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but people who are using dictation software struggle with the same thing. You say the word, you can say a word multiple ways, and with different inflection, and it takes some training.
But the one thing with dictation is, especially within recent years, they've made it better to the point where they claim it can recognize different accents and dialects and pronunciations of different words in different ways, or the same word in different ways. I don't know how accurate it is, because I usually stick with the traditional, like, American English, British English kind of translation when I use dictation, because I don't have too much of an accent, and I can speak fairly clearly when I need to. I tend to mumble, but it still works pretty good for me. So, I don't know, maybe I just answered my own question, and maybe if this guy wins, he'll get funding and he'll be able to work for a place like Google and increase his the way his product works and make it available. It did say within the article, sorry, I'm trying to get an earbud in my ear. It did say within the article that he'd love to see this technology implemented in something such as Google Glass. And I tend to agree. I think that would be a step that would be pretty sweet, because then it's open a little bit more to the masses. But then you worry about, it's then a massive company. They're more concerned about profit, not about getting it out to everybody. So it's got its pitfalls as well.
But there are project engines out there like Kickstarter and you know, that can help to fund these types of things. I mean, keep in mind this kid's a teenager in high school, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that he can produce something for $80 that works, whether it works the same for everyone or not, is a proof in concept, if nothing else.
Yeah. I'd love to see if this thing goes any further. Whether we will find out if it goes any further is a different story, because this guy is from India, and Western news really doesn't cover a lot of this stuff, unfortunately. So I'd love to see more information. I'd love to see where it goes, just because I'm a little skeptical. I hope the guy does good. I hope it advances. I hope it helps people. I wish the guy luck. I love his idea. It's perfect. But I'm very skeptical in the fact that how available or how usable will this be to the masses, especially if, for example, he wins the science fair and Google's like, all right, you know, we'd like to use this stuff, right? So then it's going to get implemented in the Google products, but Google's a corporation, so their main concern, like any corporation, is profit, which kind of defeats the purpose of inclusivity and accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the open source world.
Exactly.
Now, like I said before, I like the idea. I hope that it works. I hope that he does good. I hope he continues. I want to see more before I really say for sure that this is great. Because if it does get lumped in, then we may never see it.
Hard to say. We'll have to keep watching this kid and see what happens, because if he doesn't win, I think someone should encourage him to do a Kickstarter project or something.
Yes, I 100% agree. Yeah.
Someone like one of our viewers, Andy Lin, who's big into Google Glass, could probably hook him up with a developer too if he wanted to create an SDK for Google App Store.
Or somebody like that. Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So, speaking of Andy Lin, that was as best a segue as I can do.
Yes.
I'm doing the next story as well, which is the world's first $99 eye tracker, with full SDK. So this was brought to us by Andy Lin, who was mentioned, of course, in the earlier story.
Well, actually, it came from you, but I gave it to Andy because it was originally shared by Andy.
Well, that would be appropriate. That would be appropriate.
Okay.
The hardware itself is actually pretty cool. It's cheap enough in itself, $99. That's as cheap as it gets. Now the thing that's really cool about this is the full SDK, which is the developers package, so they can implement eye tracking within their software.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this company is doing, I haven't offered it openly to the public yet, but it's coming, is beta for Android devices. So all you Android fans out there will be able to buy the eye tracking bar for $100 and develop your software. So one of the examples they're using is Fruit Ninja. And Fruit Ninja is one of those games that kind of crosses platforms, and basically what it is, a game where you just kind of swipe across the screen and your finger cuts fruit in half as it gets tossed at you from different angles. And with the eye tracking software and the SDK for Android, the APK, I should say, they're able to control Fruit Ninja with eye tracking.
I believe that another example they used in it was Angry Birds.
Yeah.
Which is widely available on multiple platforms and widely addictive, I gotta say.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Well, I guess the fact that they're offering an SDK with the hardware is fantastic, because what that does is it tells developers out there, and there's a lot of assistive technology software developers out there that could incorporate this kind of a thing, especially the AAC software developers like Proloquo or one of the other ones that are out there. This would be an excellent piece of software to go in. My Voice, yeah. And there's of course other options on Android. There's other AAC software offerings there. So, it's good.
I would have to say that this product is definitely geared towards the developer. Right now, it is not geared towards the consumer. It is solely meant for the developer, and it's up to the developers to then say, "Hey, our software works with eye tracking, so now you can go out and use whatever eye tracking software you have, or you can go get this one when it becomes commercially available to use eye tracking with our products, our apps, such as Fruit Ninja, Angry Birds, or whatever other app becomes eye tracking capable." And it's just going to open the world up, people up to the world of gaming, which is a world that's near and dear to my heart, because I've spent years playing video games with basically one hand. And it's a fun time, but it's a pain in the ass sometimes when you have a disability. And this is just going to make it easier for those who want to game or have never been introduced into gaming, or really anything that you need if you can't control a computer a normal way or a device a normal way, you'll be able to use your eyes. So yeah, I think this is a great product, and I'm just hoping that everybody. I'm going to move on to the next story, and the next story is a story about a company we talked about during the last show. And the company was, of course, the ride-sharing service Uber. As we mentioned before, Uber was starting to implement accessibility services into their share a ride company, and this story is actually entitled "Uber Accused of Disability Discrimination." The story was shared by 1-800-Wheelchair, and so basically what this story is about is some Uber drivers have been refusing to take people to where they need to go because they have service animals. So the Institutes for the Blind in the States, I don't have the actual name of the institutes.
National Federation for the Blind, NFB.
Okay, National Federation for the Blind has launched a discrimination. Is it a suit? Have they officially sued them?
I don't think they've officially sued them. I think that they have initiated a class action lawsuit, so that takes time, and they have to find one person in a class action lawsuit to be the front person for that particular case.
Which, as we know, when you have a disability or a vision impairment, it's hard to find that one person that's willing to speak up and be that voice.
Yeah. So I'm not sure where that is or how it's going to play out, but at some point, it'll have to work itself out. They'll either have to accommodate or not, because in the States, they have the Americans with Disabilities Act, which clearly defines what is.
Yes, but I don't know. See, I think it's a bit of a gray area, because one, they're not a brick and mortar store, and two, they're not a web service. They're a mobile service that doesn't have a brick and mortar store, and they don't have a presence on the web. So I don't know where that falls under the 508 code.
There's a specific clause in 508 that governs public service providers, and that can be anybody from the public library right up to a taxi service.
But is this thing officially listed as a taxi service, or is it just like...
It's got to be something. If they're providing service to the public, they have to be listed as something.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to pay taxes. They've got to, they've got to do all the things that companies have to do. So, I don't know how they're going to overcome it.
I should mention why they have been accused of discrimination fully. They have been fully accused of discrimination because one Uber driver, instead of turning the passenger down, locked the service dog in the trunk.
And that is not acceptable, even for a person who's not using a service animal.
One, that's a service animal. They're there to help the people. Two, that's animal cruelty. So that's really breaking two different laws all in one. And apparently things like this have happened before, ranging from people just not picking them up or leaving them, or or locking a dog in the trunk. Now, there is a way for Uber to kind of lessen the issue, but not get rid of it completely, and that would be for them to put in their service, the terms of service, that they do not allow any kind of animal in their service. But then that's still discrimination, so they're still going to have to fix it somehow or be sued for it. Now, I mean, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how far it goes before somebody caves. And trust me, I hope that the KNFB is the one that wins this, because it's wrong on so many levels. You cannot deny somebody who needs a service dog a service to get around.
I think that the main argument you're going to find from this case from Uber is that, as in many things, not just in the United States, but in the UK and Canada, anywhere where democracy reigns, people have choice. And I think that Uber is going to make the argument that, we may not be entirely accessible. We do our very best to make our service accessible through our apps and other types of things. But a person does have a choice, and they can go to use another service. But I don't think that'll stand in court, to be honest.
In some areas, there is no other choice. I mean,
well, and that's where the case will fall, is that very argument.
Now, for example, when we last talked about Uber last show, they were introducing these accessibility services in Houston. Now, I'm sure there are other choices in Houston for accessibility.
Houston's a big city, so.
Travel. Sorry. I'm just wondering, such as if a thing like Uber was to come to, say, Fredericton, where there is truly no other service to use because they're always overbooked or they're just being ignorant. How this would play out in a situation like that, because it's either Uber or nothing, right?
Yeah.
This story, I don't know, it just really pissed me off. One, because
Beep.
no beef in this stuff. I'll beef you. One, I'm a dog lover, and two, I use accessible transportation. So if I was to imagine a transportation company to do this in my area, I'd be completely appalled, because people have service dogs for a reason. You cannot deny them.
Yeah, it's
Right?
a hard one. That is a hard one.
And I mean, places such as universities have run into similar way to compromise and work best for both sides. And I think that's what needs to happen here. I just don't know how long it's going to take. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see what your guys' reactions would be to the service dog incident, and maybe you can let us know the usual ways through like email or just commenting on the page, the community. Yeah. Look
Yeah,
forward to responses.
I think that this is a hot topic, and anytime the National Federation for the Blind in the States takes on legal action, man, they're vicious. They won against Target here a couple of years ago, and that was a landmark case. So
yeah, that was the landmark case for Section 508, was it not?
Was for online.
That was a big thing for 508.
It had to do more importantly with the parity between online presence and
their actual stores. Yeah. I remember that one. That one made it big here too.
It was a landmark case in that it set precedents for that type of activity for sure.
So, I mean, I can't wait for Canada to get something like 508, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. So, last story?
Yes, this is the last story, and you have it.
Last story is brought to us by Chris Young, and it says, KNFB Reader, new smartphone app heralded as game changer for the blind. Well, this is a bit of a topic close to my heart, but obviously not close enough, because I learned about the KNFB Reader from Mr. Chris Young, and I promptly went to my iPad and downloaded it immediately to play around with, and I have to say, right out of the gate, it's a nice piece of software, but it's not available it's available for the iPad, but as a double pixeled application. So they take the iPhone app and they kind of blow it up. So it's, I mean, it really doesn't matter in terms of the function. It still works great. The only difference, of course, is that you have to be in a well-lit area in order for the software to properly do its thing, because of lighting, to do a proper optical character recognition. But essentially what you do is you just take the device, your iPad or your iPhone, and hold it over the top of your image, and there are two halves, of course, to the screen, the right side being the button that you push, or the space that you push for the KNFB Reader to sort of take a temporary picture of what you're looking at and tell you whether or not you're got all four edges in the picture, if you can see all four edges, if you've got it sort of cantered to one side or the other, it'll tell you by what degree. So once you've got it settled so that four edges are clearly seen in the viewfinder and you're properly rotated, then you tap the left side of the screen and it takes a picture. And once it takes a picture, it automatically internally does an optical character recognition. It draws the text from the image, presents it on the screen, and then does what Kurzweil does really well, which is read the text aloud. So the KNFB Reader is a combined project between Kurzweil Educational Systems, who's known for Kurzweil 3000 and 1000, text-to-speech software for the computer, and the National Federation for the Blind. So they paired up together, they put a bunch of money into this, and they produced a product that is far beyond what I expected, considering that it's not even an iPad app yet. I'm continuing to investigate, and will report back once I can say definitively that it works well on an iPhone. I don't have an iPhone, so I'm going to have to find a way to get that going. But once I get a report back from that, I'll certainly be posting it online.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe me and you had discussed sort of getting some people that we know to maybe test the product out and kind of give us a report, so they can then report back to the community to let you know how it responds or how it works in our day-to-day use. Now,
if the iPad app is any indication, I can only imagine that it's fantastic on the iPhone.
Now, I do have an iPhone. We could try it with mine.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe that's something we could do over the next couple of days, and we'll report back to you next show.
Maybe we could do a blog post on it, like do an actual review and post on the DATT.TV website.
Yeah, I'll get you to do the main writing though, but I'll tell you what my reactions are.
Okay.
Simply because you're a faster typer than I am.
You got it.
But yeah, so anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I think we're good. Hopefully we can keep this every other week schedules.
Oh, we're keeping it. Trust me, we're keeping it.
All right. Well, next time we'll have our co-host Christy Edwards back on, and we'll do our very best to entertain and inform.
Yes, for sure. And as always, folks, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions, just want to talk with us, just want to give us an idea of what we can do to add to the show, take away from the show, you can email us at dattshow@gmail.com. That's DATT show@gmail.com. You can join our IRC chat, which is at the top of our website, or you can connect through your favorite IRC client. We will have a list of instructions within coming days on how to do that. Or you can email us and we can figure it out for you if you can't figure it out. Or you can just, as always, continue to contribute on the community and give us topics to talk about for the show so we can continue this and grow as a production and someday keep on trucking and get better as we go. So see you in 2 weeks, which I believe is like, what, the 17th or something like that?
Thereabouts. I'd have to look on my calendar now that you've asked.
Yeah.
It would be the 17th, yeah.
Yeah, sweet, I was right. So
beep!
I said sweet, not shit.
Oh. Beep!
So, we'll see you on the 17th.
All right.
Time, same channel.
By the way, I'd like to say that I'm glad to see you've made your bed again.
Hopefully, within the coming days, there will be a backdrop so you don't see any of this crap. But we'll see how that goes. Anyway, see you all in 2 weeks.